What world would video games mirror if the normal was games like Moon? Violence in games is a widely debated topic, and the point isn't to criticize that, but the fact is that, for instance, most of the highest budget video games do include some level of violence in their mechanics, and revolve around the player overcoming antagonized representational digital models, of humans or otherwise, through overpowering them by force. Video games aren't necessarily designed deliberately to make people engage in violence or become more violent, but they are a reflection of our context. Violence is normalized in video games because violence is normalized in real life, for some people more than others. Consequently, gameplay has evolved historically as a byproduct of this reality. As human beings, we've created parallel worlds in fictional spaces, yet we've unconsciously chosen violence, enmity, and antagonism as the primary philosophies governing interaction within these spaces. This isn't about anti-violence in games, but rather about exploring alternative possibilities. This is why games like Moon are so interesting. They serve a counterpoint to that philosophy. Not only are they provocative in that sense, but they also raise questions about how the player feels and engages with the experience. Moon's obtuseness is fairly well documented, and going through the whole game without looking up some clues is honestly pretty hard. At least it was for me, because the game doesn't demand what we as players are used to. The possibilities for interactions are made cloudier. But does that say more about the game or about the average video game player? What also sets Moon apart is that its love collecting mechanic is very lightly gamified. In fact, you could barely call it a mechanic. There's not a lot of mechanics to it. It is still a game, and so the player and the game still meet at predetermined points, but at the same time, it is very freeform, and precisely because of that, difficult to wrap our heads around. In Undertale, for example, which admittedly drew inspiration from Moon, although the player might refuse to defeat opponents, the way the player materializes their actions is still through playing games. You play minigames and engage with the game strategically through numbers and menus. There's not a lot of that in Moon. Moon is an exercise in love as a central transformative force. It's almost impossible to interact with its world through anything other than observing, listening, and being present. It's not about having a different approach while still making it fun for the player. The approach is truly the negation of what video games mean for most people. We've accidentally arrived in our discourse at its self-appointed anti-RPG title. More than anything, in the game, love is truly transformative, capable of setting things in motion, challenge structures. But the game isn't all roses either. Harassment, murder, and domestic violence are subtly and kinda surprisingly portrayed. It doesn't proclaim a love will prevail kind of passive, submissive, or moralist message in which we persevere and wait for things to happen. We do it proactively. We act with love, and structures tremble. Even prophecies. Differences are set aside and we patiently listen to each other. Every character is characterized in dramatically different ways in their appearance, but they relate to each other. Love challenges inevitability. The truth is, we're so conditioned by entertainment standards in video games that we're incapable of coming up with solutions that align with a simplified version of reality's logic. Or is it just me? Why is it so difficult to decode what the game asks us, or why is that necessarily frustrating? By getting rid of the neat schematics of gameplay, one could say the game leans more on reality. Close to the end, we can find the chips with the programming of every NPC in the game, each with their own deterministic looping routine, a representation that reminds us on the other hand that, although programmed in its inconvenience, it leans more on reality than on the idea of a program meant to appease the player. And if we have problems with that, it probably says more about us as human beings than about the game. Being creative pays off. Trying things, being in places, following NPCs, playing certain songs at certain times. In the end, fun extracted from gameplay loops isn't natural. These concepts don't exist in nature. We aren't born having already assimilated them. Both of these are historically and socially constructed concepts, so again the question is, what world would we live in if the games with the highest budgets looked more like Moon and less like Call of Duty? Coincidentally, as we break through the sky traveling in a rocket to outside of the game world and back to reality, the game is fairly obvious in its message about possibility, conformism and fatalism. Can't we do more with games? It's not clear if the ending's message is whether we, the main character, as we turn off the console and abandon the game, open doors for ourselves because we were controlling the antagonist, the hero after all, or if transformative potential lies in our departure for the real world. At the end of the day, the latter is undoubtedly true, but I find it isn't clear what the game thinks here specifically. In any case, it doesn't matter for the point at hand. What matters is that Moon has already made us consider humanity we want to see reflected in a video game, and the possibility of different worlds.